Hey, welcome to the only podcast dedicated to you, the beer leaguer. Anyways, I just wanted to do another solo one. It's been about a month since I did the last one, so I guess that's the schedule. We'll have an open house once a month, and maybe I'll do a solo pod once a month until football starts and people start caring less and less, including me, I guess. But anyways, all right, let's go right to it. I'm gonna just share a few things. And, let's see. I can do this relatively quickly. All right. All right. Hopefully you can see the standings. Are you seeing it yet? Okay, I think you're seeing it. So I guess the only interesting thing I would point out in the standings is that there's basically four tiers of people, four tiers in the standings. There's the Satch tier, all by himself. Then there's the Gags, Bizzotti, Spear, Let's Play tier. Four teams within 3.5 games of each other. And then you've got the wait till next year tier. They're all alone also. They're 7 games behind Let's Play and 9 ahead of Bake McBride. So a 16 game uh, area that they're the only team in there. And then the last tier has 7 teams in it. Bake McBrides, the Knockers, Sombreros, Rudy, the Dads, the Cows, and Hack are all within 6 games of each other. 7 teams. So we'll see if that continues. That's a little bit of an unusual distribution this year. So we'll see how it plays out. And then I did this. This is a measure of showing which teams are predicted to differ the most, and the rest of the year compared to what they are currently at. So their percentage the rest of the year differs from their current percentage by the most. And at the top of the list is the Knockers. They're predicted to improve by 89 percentage. Well, it's actually out of 1,000 points the rest of the year. And then Hack Wilson is predicted to improve by 69 percentage points out of 1,000. Um, you would expect that because Hack is the Buddha King, so that would make sense. The model only takes into account two different things. It's one is the Buddha luck is obviously not going to be extended. The thought is that it's random, and we've talked about a little bit how it's not entirely random, right? You could be a smart by design person and sitting down people when you don't need them on Sunday, if you've already determined what your win loss record's going to be. But for most weeks, you have to play right through Sunday night because most of us are right in the middle there, and a point or two or four can affect things by a game or two. Um, but uh, but if you're like 6-0 by 50 points in the Sunday night game or something, you would probably not bother to pitch your starter, that kind of thing. Um, and then at the other end, Let's Play, who's currently the lucky laggards, are predicted to have a win percentage that's 70 points lower than what they're currently at. And the Gags are runner up. They have predicted to have 68 points below where they're currently at. But, like Let's Play is still predicted for a 568 the rest of the year. It's not that they're saying they're going to go in the toilet completely. So, but I guess they're predicting some of that Buddha luck will even out. I think we've already seen it flatten a little bit, even for Hack. I think they both came back a little bit toward the pack. What's this? Oh, it's just showing the raw stats. We're currently at 56.3% hitting and 43.7% pitching. And by design, I wanted it to be somewhere around 43% pitching. And 44% pitching wouldn't be disastrous because we have 11 pitching slots in our rosters and 14 hitting slots, and that works out to be 44% pitching and 56% hitting. But I went with the 43-57 split because Fangraphs WAR, that's the way they distribute it. They distribute 57% toward position players and 43% toward pitchers. So I guess what those numbers really say is that the game is 50% hitting and 43% pitching, 7% fielding, right? Still 50-50 split, but on the pitching side, 43% on the pitching side, 80, what would that be? 86% is pitching and 14% is fielding, right? Just on the pitching side. On the defensive side, I don't know how you want to put it. So that's what that 57-43 split really says. It says it's 50 hitting, 43 pitching, and 7 fielding. But anyway, so that's why I wanted to up the pitching production a little bit, which is getting more and more difficult because the starters are, I think I showed that last month that the starters are going fewer innings per start, right? It's hard to parse out the how much of that is due to the fact that they're using openers too. So that's a little bit that skews the numbers a little bit. But in general, we've gone from about 10 years ago, we were at 6 innings to start, and now we're more like 5 innings to start. So, and it's been hard to besides the fact that you're getting fewer innings in the start, so there's going to be a point or two less per start just based on the innings. Um, you're going to have fewer quality starts, fewer wins even in some cases, right? It's an accomplishment now to go 5 innings in some cases. So, anyways, let's see. Oh, this was just talking about war. I don't know if I want to talk about it, but when you look at war, it's important to remember that it's not really an exact stat. Like they assign exactly 570 war to hitters and exactly 430 to pitchers each year. So when it's a nice little round number like 1,000, it's a ballpark figure, right? It's not a so to speak. Um, it's not some they didn't calculate it that it's exactly that. And I think what their logic is says that a team with zero war, a player, a roster completely made up of zero war players would win 48 games. They'd go 48 and 114. And there's been some places I think prospectus talk that thought that might be a little high, that it might be more like between 40 and 44 wins. So who knows? I haven't been able to. I don't know if I'd be able to figure that out. Could give it a shot, but I have not done something like that. But anyway, so it's interesting that the 2024 White Sox, according to Fangraphs WAR, didn't even perform according to what a zero WAR team would have done. Because they went 41 and 121. And zero WAR says that you'd go 48 and 114. But I did look at the run differential, and if you look at run differential, the White Sox underperformed. By their run differential, they should have been 52 and 110. So slightly above a zero WAR team, 4 wins above a zero WAR team. Usually, lately, it's been about 10 extra runs will give you an extra win. 10 fewer runs, differential wise. 10 fewer runs in your differential will give you an extra loss. So you'd go from, if you were at zero run differential for the year, you'd predicted to be 81 and 81. If you had a plus 10, you'd predicted to be 82 and 80 and so forth. So I figured it out for 2024 was about 10.4 runs per extra win. So right around 10. And then to complicate it a little bit more, on a per team basis, it would depend. It wouldn't be a flat 10 runs. That's just for the league. Because you can probably make sense of it that if you have fewer runs scored, you're a pitching team and you play good defense and you have fewer runs in your games, that a run would be worth more in each of those games than it would be a high scoring team like in Colorado or Sacramento or something like that. So a run would be worth more in the games when fewer runs are being scored. I think that's pretty intuitive, right? But just on a league wide basis, it's usually around 10 runs per win. And in 2024 was 10.4. And I only looked at 2024 because the White Sox, I was curious because they weren't even a zero war team that year, according to that measure, the 48 and 114 record. All right, I wanted to take a trip down memory lane here and look at the 2014 Cows. I know we've mentioned them before, but I think it's important to remember, June is Cow Pride Month. And I think we should look at them because it's really pretty amazing, and it's unique in league history. We really haven't had another team like this, certainly since 2006. I don't know. I don't remember any teams in the '90s that were like this, but it's possible since we don't have the weekly breakdown. But so let's just look at the 2014 Cows. I think it's worth looking at. Um, they started the year 0 and 12. So through April 13th, 2014, they were 0 and 12. On June 2nd of that year, they were 18 and 36. So that's into June with a 333 percentage. I guess if you're looking at the bright side, you'd say, hey, they went 18 and 24 since April 13th. So that's like a 43%, 42 or 3% win percentage. Maybe it means you're not going to, maybe the hope was that maybe the Cows weren't destined to be a last place team, which they were still on June 2nd. They were still 2 weeks after that, too. On June 16th, they were still in last. On June 22nd, they improved to 32 and 40 and they climbed into 10th place. Okay. So that's a little bit even beyond where we are in the season right now. That's kind of like the week we're in right now. They climbed out of last into 10th. There were, what, 12 teams that year? 11 teams that year. I think that's right. Yeah, 11 teams. All right. So on June 29th, they went to 38 and 40. They climbed to seventh place. They're still not above 500. We're at the end of June. July 6th, they slipped down to eighth. And then on July 20th, they climbed up to fourth. And for the first time the whole season, they were above 500. So on July 20th, after the All Star game and everything, that was when they first went to 500, above 500. Then on August 17th, they climbed into third. A couple of weeks later, they went to second. And then the following week, they climbed into first on September 7th, and they stayed there and they won. I think they stayed there. I think I have that in the next sheet. So just an amazing year. Now, of course, the thing that helped the Cows out to pull off that miracle was that it they won with a 93 and 60 record. That is the lowest win percentage of any champion the beer league's ever had, except it was tied with Charlie Jersild in 1998, who also won the league with a 93 and 60. So that helps you because in 93 and 60, let's say for this year, for instance, that's not going to win you the league. Um, Teams that came close, I know the Knockers were 94 and 60 in 2006. So that was close. And I guess I thought there might be one more team, but I can't think of it offhand. But anyway, so they were helped by that. They won with the lowest win percentage of any champion in league history, tied with Charlie in 1998. Kind of like I guess the Mets winning the pennant that year, and I think their record was 82 and 79. They didn't play 162. They didn't need to. So that was the lowest percentage. That's before the wild card era, right? I mean, that's like that was when there was only four teams making the playoffs. But anyways, I just think it's nice to look back on the 2014 Cows. It was an amazing year, and we really haven't seen much of that in the beer league. So that's why I did this next little thing here. You can see who won the league each year and what date they moved into first and which team they displaced and where that displaced team finished. So last year, Waite moved into first on June 15th. They displaced Let's Play, and Let's Play actually finished in ninth. So that was a big, big fall. In 2024, Satch moved into first on August 11th. They displaced the Gags, who finished third. In 2023, Satch moved into first on May 28th, displacing the Gags again, who finished in second. In 2022, Satch won, moved into first on May 15th, and displaced Play, who finished second. In 2021, Satch moved into first on July 11th and displaced Play again. Let's Play, who finished in second. 2020 is a little strange because It was the short year. Spear moved into first on September 2nd, displacing the Dads, who finished in fourth. 2019, the Gags moved into first on June 9th, displacing the Knockers, who finished second. I don't know how far back you want to go with this. 2018, the Knockers moved into first on April 8th. So basically the whole year. I think they went 2-0 the first week and they weren't in first. The first place team went 3-0, or maybe I can't remember if that's right. Yeah, I think they tied with another team that first week, and they displaced Satch, who finished in third. The year before, Knockers came in first and moved into first on May 7th, so also pretty early in the year, displacing the Cows, who finished third. But anyways, I've got all the champions here. I've got the 2016 Spear, who moved into first on June 5th, displacing Satch, who finished fifth. 2015 Dads moved into first on July 19th, and they displaced the Knockers, who finished second. Maybe we'll just go down to let's go down to this one. 2014 Cows, like we just saw, moved into first on September 7th, displacing Satch, who finished in second. And then Satch, in their rookie year, moved into first on May 6th. They just displaced the McBrides, who ended up finishing third. And I think that's enough. That's enough right there. But the average team moved into first on August and on June 22nd. So we had some that were nearly wire to wire, and then we had others. What's the latest we had? The Knockers moved into first on September 23rd, displacing Chet Lemon. That's 2012, who finished in third. And Knockers did it in 2006. They moved into first on September 24th, and they displaced Big Fun, who finished in second. Knockers won the league 94 and 60 that year. Big Fun also had a 94 and 60, and they finished second in points. And the Tracy, who was only in the league for that one year, got really angry, as if we were, you know, uh, being unfair to him or something like that. But it was always in the standings that the standings were based on points, secondarily, primarily on wins and then secondarily. So I didn't feel too bad about it. I explained it to him, but he was sure that this was we were just doing that to screw him over. So he left. So what can you do? Wasn't the case. All right. If we look at this is I did this last time. I did it again for this time. This is Yahoo rankings. Um, the difference between their current ranking and their preseason ranking. And then I capped so I did it for the top 390 players on preseason ranks because we auction off 390 players. If you don't include NAs and IL slots, we have 390 slots on our that are taken up at any given time, right? 30 teams and 13 teams and 30 players, 390. So, and then I looked at the top 390 preseason rankings, and then I looked at the top, and then I looked at where their current ranking is, and I capped it at 390. So if you slipped from, 67 to ranking 2000, it's really no difference between 1000 and 2000. It's just you're just a dollar player or you're not even worth rostering. So I kept it at 390, and then I took the difference. So this number is ranks lost from the preseason. It doesn't include improvements. I just wanted to look at, your bad luck, whatever, the gloom, despair, and agony on me. The Buck Owens and the Buckaroos song from Hee Haw. Deep dark depression and excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. All right, so that was just completely spontaneous. I had no idea I was going to do that. No, I'm just kidding. We talked about doing that in the production meeting. So we have a big production. This whole thing is scripted. Even this part right now that I'm saying right now has been scripted. So I just want you to know that. Anyways, so the most unlucky team, according to Yahoo rank change is the sombreros with 2,376 rank points lost. This is not a net. Again, this is not including your ranks that improved. This is just looking at the ones that did not. And the Bake McBrides would be runner up at 2,171. And then the teams that have been least affected like this are Let's Play with 953 rankings lost, and Wait Till Next Year, 1,005. So you can see the players. I don't even know if I agree with all this because I don't understand how Aroldis Chapman was ranked 60 and he's currently at 327. So take this with a grain of salt. This is just these are the Yahoo rankings. I don't plant my flag or whatever uh, on their rankings, but you can see the players that have lost the most rank points from preseason: Rondres Munoz, Garrett Cole, who is strange because he was hurt going into the year. So I don't know why he would have been ranked 67 preseason. So again, that's not so good. But Wyatt Langford, okay, that's a real one. Hunter Brown, yeah, he was hurt late in March, but before the preseason rankings came out. Cal Raleigh, who hasn't had a good year, and he's been hurt also. So the dad's there. Mookie Betts for Spear, same deal. Hasn't done that well and has been hurt. Also, Devin Williams for the Knockers. Daniel Palencia, who's been hurt, and I think he's hurt again. So that's the second time for the dads. Francisco Lindor, who has always played 160 games a year, and this year he's not doing that. That's for Rudy. So Aroldis, this was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. Yainer Diaz, who I believe was hurt too, for Hack. Garrett Crochet for Sombreros. That seems legit, right? Trevor McGill for Bizzotti. So, anyways, I looked at walk rate for the year because you can see it's gone up about 0.5%. Everything else about the same. Homers is 3%. Last year, through this similar number of games, it was 2.9% per batter, on a per batter's face basis. Strikeouts are about the same. So the walk rate has gone up 0.5%. And if you look at, let's see, if you look at the challenge system, let's see if I got that. If you look at the challenge system, as expected, based on minor league numbers from last year, we kind of expected that catchers would be the best at this. They would be better than hitters, and pitchers wouldn't be so good. So you can see, as far as overturned calls, we've had 1,436 strikes overturned into balls, and we've only had 1,004 balls overturned into strikes. So that's about what, 400 ball, a net benefit to the pitcher, right? There's 400 fewer balls that were called, and that would translate to around 80 or 90 fewer walks in a season. It's usually around 5 balls as far as ball strikes would give you an extra walk or one fewer walk. What am I trying to say? So, because not every ball would result in a walk. You'd have balls put into play that wouldn't result in a walk or would eventually be strikeouts anyway, blah, blah, blah. But so this should be a benefit to the pitcher, but we've seen that there have been, much more walks than what has there been? There's been about 500 and what is this, 64 more walks this year at a similar place in the season. So you can see that it's not because of the ABS system as far as the calls being overturned. That would benefit the pitcher, and the pitchers haven't benefited. So I think what it shows is that the strike zone, now that it's extremely strictly called, there was more wiggle room before, and that was benefiting the pitcher primarily. So I think that's the only way you can look at it, right? That's the only way that you could interpret it. Uh, so even though I guess before the season, I thought maybe it would benefit the pitcher because I was just looking at it as far as overturned calls, and that's true. But the overwhelming factor is that the strike zone is been tighter, more strictly called, and that has hurt the pitcher. And I guess we can think of like those outings that those Braves pitchers had or Maddox had. You know, he probably was getting 2 or 3 inches on the outside part of the plate, and he would not be getting that now. Not to say that Maddox couldn't pitch today and figure it out. You know, I'm sure he would do just fine, but maybe not quite as well as he did in the '90s with that. You know, playing with the strike zone, playing with the umpire, because now that part of it's really taken out of the equation. So we'll see. It's just speculation, right? Let's see if I have anything else of interest, of possible interest that I could show here. Um, let's see. Uh, oh, okay, yeah. I wanted to look at park factors. I've put these back to the beginning of last year, since we had Sacramento was from the beginning of last year. Um, maybe there was another one too. But anyways, now we can compare. So as far as the park factors, going back to the beginning of 2025, Coors is still on top. Sutter Health is right behind him at a 110 factor. Other ones at in the top five, Camden Yards, Comerica, and oh, I can't do this for Tropicana because that includes last year. So let's disregard them for now and say that Nationals are in the top five of hitters parks just based on runs, not based on homers. If you just do it based on homers, you can see the Nationals Park is not that great a homers park. Even Coors isn't that great a homers park. They're both above average, but obviously Coors, look at that, it has a twice the amount of triples are hit in that park than in neutral field. So you get your runs in other ways. And then let's look at the pitchers parks going back to the beginning of last year. No big surprises. Texas is number one, Seattle's second, San Diego, uh, Miami, and Cleveland. Those are the bottom five as far as, or top five as far as run depression. Yeah, let's see, home run depression. Let's see if we have one that stands out that's not in the bottom there. We've got Pittsburgh has a 77 rating for homers, and they're middle of the pack runs wise, but for homers they're way down. Oracle is 21st in runs and 83rd percentile. I mean, not percentile, 83% of neutral park homers. So that's quite a bit down, even though they're toward the middle run environment. They're 21st, so it's not. They're definitely below average. All right. Let me look at. Oh, I did want to look at this. I want to look at one rolling year and compare KC to what because KC changed their fences. They moved them in, right? They moved them in about 10 feet in some places. So let's see. So this year, KC is playing at a 104 run factor, 92 homer. Okay. 104, 92. Let's look at what it was. Let's do a 3-year rolling average ending last year. So KC from a 104.92 so far this year was at a 101 and 99. That's weird. No, I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. 101 and 85. Okay, so the homers have gone from an 85 to a 92, was it? I can't remember. And the run factor's gone from a 101 to 104. So it definitely has impacted it. It could be even more so, right? Because we've only played the colder part of the schedule. So we'll see how that plays out. But I had mentioned Detroit last time. Let's see where Detroit is on this. Detroit. has slipped a little bit. They're at 101. They're playing like an average park. They're not playing like the pitcher's park they were. As far as homers, they're at 104, so slightly above average. So, all right, that's enough of the park factor thing. I forgot to check how much time I have. So that's unfortunate. I have no idea. Oh, God. All right. Let's see what else I can do here. All right. We got another thing we can look at, just general baseball stuff. Um, this is I've got the Pacoda standings, which show, the predicted rest of the season standings, which teams would be predicted to make the playoffs. So you can see in the NL, well, let's start with the AL. So in the AL, it would be Yankees, Guardians, and Mariners winning the divisions, and then the wild card teams. If I can do this, it looks like it would be Tampa, Toronto, and Texas. This is according to the Baseball Prospectus Pacoda standings. So I don't know if I agree with that. So they have like Texas over the White Sox. So we'll see what happens there. Dakota's got the White Sox finishing second with 78 wins. Then we go to the NL. They've got Atlanta, Milwaukee, Dodgers. That seems about right. And then the wild cards would be Philly, Cubs, and D-backs. It looks like, yeah, Phillies, Cubs, D-backs. So we'll see what happens with that. Now I've also got, let's see, I can look at Fangraphs also. We can look at Fangraphs and see how they compare, how their predicted standings compares. Right. Let's see. All right, so Fangraphs predicted standings would have in the AL. Am I reading this right? Yes, right. Okay. And they would have the Yankees. Um, where is the Central? Guardians? No, no. Okay, this is predicted. Yeah, yeah. Yankees, Guardians winning the Central. Is that right? Is that right? Did I miss one? That seems a little strange. Yeah, they have Guardians, Central. All right, so I guess it's not that strange. Yankees, Guardians, and the West would be the Mariners, and then the wild cards would be. Gee, is there a better way for me to do this? I don't know if they sorted. It's like just sorted overall. Uh, who would they have? They would have in the playoffs the Blue Jays, the A's, and the Orioles. Unless I missed one, and I don't. Oh no, I did miss one. Rays. So they have Yankees, Guardians, Mariners, and then the wild card teams would be the Rays, the Blue Jays, and the A's. All right, so the NL would be Braves, Brewers, Dodgers, and the wild cards would be Phillies, Cardinals, Cubs. We've got three from the Central, so that's a little crazy. So, anyways, at least to know your team has a fighting chance. That's really the important thing. These are just these are dart throws, really. All right, I guess I could share this hopefully quickly. This is let me go back to this. All right, that was the walks. So I looked at Jacob Mizorowski. He had that one hitter, 15 strikeouts. And I thought the most impressive thing, I know it was under 100 pitches, and that was impressive, but zero walks. That's the last thing I expected from Mizorowski this year, and that's been the huge difference. So you can see I've got his minor league numbers, just looking at walk percentage, strikeout percentage, and home run percentage. So you can see in the minors, he would be up in the low 30s strikeout percentage. Of course, you wouldn't expect that that would go higher in the majors, right? You expect probably it would tail off a little bit. In fact, his ATC projection, that's the consensus projection on Fangraphs, was 27% strikeout rate, right? And that makes sense. Looking at this, he did have a 32% with the Brewers last year and 270 batters faced, but that seemed reasonable, 27%. Now look at the walk rate though. 13, 14, 12%. It was 11%, improved, a little bit with his partial season with the Brewers last year. It's down to 7% this year. So that's been the huge difference. I mean, the most optimistic you could have been would have been like, well, he's just going to do what he did last year, and he's actually doing even better. Even his home run rate, which was 2.9% last year, is down to 1.2. Now that's probably a little low. That will probably come up. I mean, imagine all these are going to come back a bit, but still, it's pretty amazing, especially when you consider who he was compared with, like a Trey Savage, who was predicted what 10, 27, 2.9, just about the same as Mizorowski, slightly better, walk rate and maybe a slightly better home run rate. So, if anything, they preferred Savage to Mizorowski. And you can see what Trey's done this year. He's got the 13% walk rate. Averages around what we saw that is, it's 8, 9%, 9%, be about average. Um, so he's at 13, which is not good. 24% is, it's decent. It's above average, but not much different from the average. He's got a decent home run rate, but that's kind of a noisy stat, 1.5%. So, anyways, you just never know, right? I mean, Savage had a decent, a healthy walk rate too in the minors. Not as much as Mizorowski, but and I looked at one more pitcher, Chase Burns, he hasn't done Mizorowski well, but he's done pretty damn well. 30% strikeout rate, 8% walks, which is fine, 2.8% home run rate. And it's pretty close to his projection, actually, only slightly better than his projection. So you can see in the minors, he had the good walk rate. So if anybody's going to walk rate's going to go down, as far as like comparing it to Mizorowski, Burns would be a better bet. He's got a 30% strikeout rate. You could make the case that maybe that'll go a little higher. So he's looking really good. What else we got here? All right. If I have time, I have no idea how much time I have left. Hopefully they'll warn me. This is the difference between what a player has actually done this year and what his original projection was, prorated through Wednesday's game. So that's like 45% of the season. So you can see the player, and this is according to the ATC projections. So you can see the top player on here is Jason Robleski. Other ones that have outperformed their original projection: Walbert Urania, Jacob Mizorowski, Brandon Young, Emerson Hancock, Cam Schlittler. These are all pitchers, and I don't think that it's set up that way. No, it's not. So it just happens to be that their top six or so are all pitchers. Other outperformers are Soroka, JT Ginn, Bryce Elder, Antonacci for the White Sox, Peter Lambert, Ildemaro Vargas, although he's come back, Curtis Mead, Liam Hicks, Chase Burns, Connolly Early, Shohei who is this? Shohei the pitcher, it must be. Um, Tristan Peters for the White Sox, Casey Schmidt, Keider Montero, TG Rumfield, Martin Perez. And then you can look at the guys that have uh, tailed off the most: Garrett Crochet, Hunter Brown, Nick Pivetta, Francisco Lindor, Kodai Senga, Matthew Boyd, Jorge Polanco, Addison Barger, Yusei Kikuchi, Wyatt Langford, Edwin Diaz, Roman Anthony. These are the big guys that their active points differed the most from their preseason projection. And then I looked at also, let's see if I got this one here. Okay, this one compares the rest of season projection to where they currently stand in points. And that's also prorated. So we've got 2,600 games left and 2,200 played. That was through yesterday. I'm rounding. So these guys would be their rest of season would outperform. Rest of season projection outperforms what their current points are by the most, and normalizing them. Prorating it based on how many games are left, how many games they've already had. So Hunter Brown, Wyatt Langford, Braden Montgomery for the White Sox, Francisco Lindor, which makes sense. He's been hurt. Lars Nootbaar has been hurt and he's back. Garrett Cole, same deal. Jared Jones, Lourdes Gurriel, who's been hurt. Kodai Senga, has been down in minors and hurt. Matthew Boyd, Ha-Sung Kim, Jordan Lawler, Carlos Rodon, Tarek Skubal. All right, these are your guys that would, I guess there's no big surprises there. A lot of it's based on who's coming back off of injury. But you see Cal Raleigh at the bottom of the page there. Grayson Rodriguez, Jackson Holiday, just name a few. Alejandro Kirk. All right, and these guys should tail off the most according to the ATC projections rest of the year. Cam Schlittler, Chase Burns, Jason Robleski, Luis Rengifo, Jacob Mizorowski, O'Neill Cruz, Shohei. That's got to be the pitcher. I'm thinking. I guess I didn't think about that I should have them separated, but I have them all together. So I don't know which Shohei that is. Um, it's got to be the pitcher, right? If the projection was only for 307 points. And then Adolis Garcia. Yeah, it's got to be Shohei the pitcher. Adolis. These guys should be tailing off the most. Bryce Elder. Yeah, I agree there. Clay Holmes, Kyler Montero, Aaron Judge. That's based on the fact that he's going to miss a lot of the second half. So, anyways, I don't know if that was then worth looking at. But I guess that's it. I don't have much more that I can look at here, and I don't know how much time I have left. It would have been good to check that. But anyways, so we'll have an open house on, I think it's July 6th. That's the Monday after July 4th. I think July 4th will work out where most people will have the Friday off, because that would be the 3rd, right? As opposed to having the Monday, the 6th off. I think that's a good bet, right? So most people have the Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So Monday be like a normal day. So we'll try to have an open house then, July 6th, if Jeff is willing and able to do it. So I guess that's it. All right. Well, take it easy, beer leaguers. Hopefully this wasn't too boring. I think it was somewhat boring, but hopefully there was some content in there that was all right. And it's all geared to you, the beer leaguer. You're not going to find that anywhere else. All right. Well, I'll see you hopefully July 6th. Hopefully get some more people to come on since we're only doing these once a month now. But okay. Peace out.